think I'm waiting for the signal that the live video is starting, or maybe it's starting. I still haven't exactly figured this Facebook thing out. Okay, I just got the message that I'm live. Hi, everyone. Happy Monday. Happy day 9 of phase 1. I wanted to hop on quickly to give a few follow-up thoughts to the conversation that we started. Well, first of all, thank you for bringing so many amazing questions into the Zoom yesterday. And as I said, little by little throughout our time together, I will address them each more deeply, including the allergies. We can talk more about that. Hormone replacement therapy, a wonderful question and very relevant topic for the population right now. But today I wanted to hop on and just give a little bit more background behind my response to Barb's question about taking ibuprofen for an injury. And as with the other live, actually, even that went a little longer than I intended. I'm going to try to give some extra thoughts in a succinct manner for your consideration. And with all of these lives and anything I post here, I always welcome your comments, your feedback, further questions that might be raised with going deeper into any of these topics. But I feel like the topic of pain and discomfort in general is a really important and relevant one. And I actually started writing a newsletter last night, a little bit inspired by our conversation. So I think most of you receive my newsletter. If you don't and you want to, let me know. I can add you to the mailing list, but I will also address a little bit of this in writing and in extension to our conversation last week about yin and yang and some of these foundational things. Where I would love to begin this little discourse is to say that in society in general, I feel like a lot of the approach to medicine is about taking away pain. And when you hear that, your response might be, well, yeah, isn't that a good thing? And yes, of course it is a good thing. No one wants anyone to be in suffering. And simultaneously, what we seem to have really removed ourselves from is this idea that pain and sensations in the body are messages from the body telling us that something is going on. And so, what I have seen throughout the entirety of my 16 years, which is actually very little, very few in practice, but I also feel like in life in general, is that we have sort of demonized pain. We've sort of made any sensation that we perceive to be bad or uncomfortable bad. And in reality, when we look through a more holistic lens, we deconstruct a little bit of this mindset. And I've been asking you to do it. So you've already been doing, right? This whole practice of instead of greeting a sensation and diving into judgment or description or rationalization or, right, like all of the ways that we try to make things that we perceive to be not okay, okay, or to muscle through them through the holistic lens. One of the things that we do in any healing process is gently and lovingly deconstruct that mindset to the place where when our body gives us messages, we're listening long enough to receive the message before we begin to react or respond to that message. And so, pain in general is also a tricky topic because pain, although it seems like now if you have an acute injury, and I didn't ask Barb just in the spirit of timing yesterday how she injured her back, but that's sort of what sparked this whole conversation, right? When you have an acute energy or injury, excuse me, the pain comes as a signal, right, that the body is instigating the inflammatory process, and the body recognizes that something has gone awry in the system, or some damage has been done in the system. And so we get that acute pain. But in a lot of cases, for especially chronic conditions, pain can be one of the last things to show up. So when we really move into a state of pain, what has happened is that there have usually been a lot of little whispers, and it goes back to what I shared with you yesterday, right? Like the body whispers, and when we don't listen to those whispers, eventually we're forced to listen to the screams, right? We're forced to listen to the more forceful messages. And the evolution of pain, again, especially in chronic conditions, is just that. And I've seen it over and over and over again clinically, where when we can deconstruct the story of what happened and why someone ended up where they ended up in a lot of pain or even a little pain, there were a lot of little signals that in our modern approach maybe seemed insignificant or just seemed like, I can handle this, so I'll keep going, that were the body's messages of like, hey, something's off, right? Or hey, something's out of balance. Can you tend to it? Hey, like all those little messages that when we don't respond to them and we're not listening and actively interacting with them, create a snowballing process where one level of dysfunction then leads to a deeper level of dysfunction, leads to a deeper level of dysfunction. And often this is when pain begins to be part of the conversation. But in all of this, what I'd love for you to consider is that sensations in the body are information, including pain. And when we don't stop to have a conversation with those sensations, and by conversation, I mean like on the first level, just listening and honoring that something came up, that the body is talking to you in some way. And the second level of that is interacting with it in a way that is non-judgmental, or isn't trying to brush it away, or isn't trying to just subdue the sensation because it seems to be inhibiting your ability to go on. But all of these things, pain included, are signals that the body gives us to let us know that there's some kind of imbalance. And when you really begin to step into the realm of living holistically, or approaching your well being holistically, which means as an integrated whole, and I would say add today also means introducing things in a medicinal way that do as little harm as possible. And this could be a whole different discussion. So I'll kind of leave it at that. But again, and I'll contrast it again, this discussion around ibuprofen and possible alternatives. But where we really try to rebuild our talents and capacity to live in this body is to really hear and honor all of the messages the body gives us. I hope I'm sort of making sense here. And so, like an example could be, and Barb, I'm sorry I don't know your whole story, but I'm just going to use it as an example. So you got an injury to the back, and the body is now in pain, right? So that pain is a message that something needs tending to. I'm not going to say that ibuprofen in general is bad. It is what it is. Ibuprofen is ibuprofen, right? Everything in life exists in relationship. And so we can't say that ibuprofen is inherently bad. Ibuprofen is simply ibuprofen. What we know about something like ibuprofen, and for those of you in different countries, it might be called something a little bit differently, but these NSAIDs, right, that are anti-inflammatory, act as anti-inflammatory agents over the counter, the stuff you don't need a prescription for in the body. What we know to be true about it is that it does limit the inflammatory response so that we feel less pain. And we also know now more and more some of the underlying negative side effects that taking a medication like that has. When we look at the big picture of life, if you take an ibuprofen twice in a year, is that such a bad thing? No, probably not. And also, because everything exists in relationship, we want to look in a couple of other places. One, because ibuprofen has been created to be such a powerful anti-inflammatory, and again, here it even depends. I don't take medicine regularly, so if and when I ever put an ibuprofen in my mouth, it works. It does what it's supposed to do really powerfully, right? Because it's something new. For people who have trended in the direction that they take ibuprofen on a daily basis or a regular basis, you might not any longer feel such a significant impact because the body is constantly adjusting to what we're giving it and the input we're giving it. But again, I want to, sort of make these like Russian doll, big picture, putting things together so that we can really consider all of the layers. So again, is ibuprofen inherently bad? No. It is ibuprofen and it does what it does. Where we might consider something else other than that is that because it does such a good job with taking the sensation of pain away, if we have pain and we take something that takes that message away, what I'd love for you to consider is, are we really in conversation with the message that the body is giving us? Meaning, if I'm practicing yoga on a regular basis and I start feeling pain somewhere in my body, and I'm like, oh, well, I know ibuprofen takes that pain away. And so I take the ibuprofen. A couple of things. Is the ibuprofen helping to heal my body? It is not. Its sole function is to limit inflammation and pain. So already we're out of the holistic realm because it isn't actually addressing why I have the pain or discomfort in the first place. So that's one layer of consideration. But here I am going to yoga class on a regular basis. And if those of you who don't practice yoga, think of something physical that you do, going out for a walk, gardening, even cleaning the house is a very physical act. So, insert what is meaningful to you. And you have pain and you're like, I know ibuprofen takes the pain away. So you take the ibuprofen and you don't feel the pain anymore. And you go back to yoga class, or you go out for a walk, or you go out into the garden, not feeling the pain message that is still there, but we just don't feel it anymore because we took an ibuprofen. The chances and likelihood that we do more damage in the place that the body is already saying, hey, there's damage here, are very high because we have subdued the message of the body to the extent that we're able to continue normally. Where if we were really honoring our relationship with our body, and again, be careful because I'm not saying that I want you to stay in pain. What I'm saying is that that pain is there as a message to be interacted with. And what things like ibuprofen and many of the things that we use over the counter and in our modern approach to medicine, what they are doing is taking that discomfort momentarily away. We kind of looked at it in allergies as well, right? Same kind of cycle, which allows us to continue life as we always have. But if we were really looking at that story from a holistic point of view, right, even if it's acute injury, those sensations are there also to tell us, hey, be careful. Hey, don't engage in such activity right now or such physical activity right now because I'm in here, right? This is your body talking. I'm in here trying to repair the damage that's already here. Are you following me? And so this is one of the reasons that we might consider restructuring our responses to things. One, the ibuprofen, although it's doing exactly the job it's meant to do, is not actually solving the problem. Two, it is masking the message to an extent where we are actually capable, in a lot of cases, to continue life as it normally is for us, which is ultimately kind of ignoring the sensations the body is giving us to help us understand what it's going through. And here, of course, we confront so many things about modern life, like I can't take time off work, or this needs to get done, or this, right? And this is where we also get deeper into the emotional and psychological layers of healing of what is motivating that. Why can't we say no? Why can't we give ourselves rest? Why don't we feel successful when we're resting? Like what could be more successful than resting your body when it needs rest? What could be more successful than that? Because that's survival. That's enabling your body to do all the things that it needs to do to stay out of a disease process. But in our modern lives, right, all of the ways that we have created storytelling around everything. And I know that gets really deep. And I'm not saying we're going to totally solve it in 30 days. And part of what I love so much about your willingness to enter this program is simply to enter into conversations that are hopefully different than those you've had before. And so, again, is taking ibuprofen inherently bad? I'm going to say we can't really define that because everything exists in relationship, right? There might exist a time, place, and cause where you would want that type of intervention because you really literally have no other method than to continue. But if we're really on in the discussion of our well-being in total, in totality, right? And what we really want as far as our wellness and our health, we want to begin to look a little deeper. And so that's why I bring up this discussion. And in this program in general, because we know one of the deep pieces of work we're doing is sort of resetting to the best of our ability in 30 days the gut microbiome. Something like ibuprofen, we know it has an impact on the microbiome, even just one dose of it. And so that's why, again, relationally, it just gives us an opportunity to rewrite the story. Are there many natural things that we can introduce to the system to help with inflammation and pain? There absolutely are. And I can help to start parsing those out also in the comments, or if any of you have already trended into that type of discussion, put in the chat. I will share a couple of combinations of things that I love to use. And you might say also like, well, if I use a natural rub for pain, isn't that also masking the pain? And I'm gonna say no, because all natural interventions that I know about, and similarly to the discussion that we had about allergies yesterday and the lemon, the lavender, the peppermint, that have antihistamine qualities, more than just shutting down the information, they're giving the body support to go through the process that it's going through in a more healthful way. So, does something like peppermint oil have very strong anti inflammatory and heat clearing properties? It does. But because it's nature, your body can recognize that it is a message of, hey, it's okay. I hear you. I see you. I see that we're going through an inflammatory process, and so I'm providing you with something that will help you to do that in the most healthful way. In contrast to many of these over the counter drugs that are just like pain, take that sensation away completely, and then we sort of take ourselves out of the conversation. I know that's a lot to consider, but again, all of this for your consideration, right? Don't stay up late at night journaling about this unless you're really moved to, of course. But again, this whole process, and especially as we enter into phase 2, when we're really like going deeper in the system and like get some of the ick out and get some of the stuck stuff out, it's a really beautiful time to consider what our habits are, what the elements we're introducing to the system actually do in the bigger picture of the discussion, and what we could do alternatively to support the body in all that it knows how to do to heal and to protect us and to like do the right thing so that we actually traverse bumps in the road in a way where we are solving the entirety of the problem and not just subduing the symptoms to make us more comfortable. So I hope this makes sense to everyone. So again, in that discussion about pain and sensations, where I would love to encourage you to just play with your thinking is that these are messages the body gives us to let us know what's going on. And when we hush them or stop them or shut them down, we're ignoring the very system that we are relying on to keep going. And so it becomes a little bit of a distorted relationship. And so part of the trending into a mind of holism and also a mind of knowing that we are nature and knowing that these messages and processes are actually very important and vital to our survival is kind of restructuring our interpretation of these things. Pain is not bad. Pain is a message. You know, feeling uncomfortable in your skin, yes, it's uncomfortable, but it's not inherently bad. It's your body saying, hey, I really need you to pay attention, right? Like something's going on that needs your attention. And where natural medicine can assist us, in my opinion, much better than many of these quick fixes that we are more familiar with, is honoring that our body is really wise and really smart, and that these messages are simply that the body asking for our attention, the body asking and telling us, like, hey, something's out of balance. So, can we take a moment and investigate and fix what's out of balance? Before the body starts screaming into states of pain and discomfort so bad that the only thing we feel like we can do is shut it up with an external force. And so, again, all for your consideration. And again, I'm hoping to fulfill the writing of this newsletter that might also provide some of this information in a slightly different way. But again, I want to be really careful that in this whole trajectory, we kind of move into that mindset where, again, ibuprofen, is it bad or good? It's ibuprofen. And when we look at it for what it is and what it does, and we put that in the bigger picture of what we're wanting for our well being and what we understand about the way the body works, we're at least giving ourselves a choice. And if what it is that you're going for is a state of sustainable wellness and a state of health where you're going into the root cause of whatever it is that you might be going through as far as disharmony and dis-ease, we do at some point have to look deeper into how many influences just subdue the voices of the body and don't actually help with any part of the healing process. And when we subdue that voice, we're given the illusion that we're okay when the body has told us that we're not okay, but we keep going. And then we create layer upon layer of disharmony that the body adjusts to, the mind adjusts to, until the point where maybe, maybe you're lucky and you can follow that for your lifelong and you don't have any problems. But for most of us, it ends up being a problem that, when it finally presents itself fully, is a very complicated situation to get out of. I hope that this helps to give a little more depth to that part of the conversation that we had yesterday. I've got in my notes more on allergies and also the hormone replacement therapy. Anything else that comes up for you, please remember to use this Facebook group so we can go deeper into some of these things. I'm so appreciative of you showing up and bringing your experiences here, because we can have more conversations like this that are truly relevant to how you're living and what you're encountering and what you are confronting. So happy last day. Did I say day 9? I said day 9. It's day 10. It's day 10. Erase that. It is your last day of phase 1. So enjoy this last day of phase one. You've received an email already about transitioning to phase two. If there are any clarifications you need before tomorrow, please let me know and continue to enjoy the journey. 24 minutes.